I've always believed some moments, once witnessed, cannot be erased. Like a wine stain on white silk, permanent, no matter how hard you scrub. It was just after midnight when I came downstairs for a glass of water. The house was dimly lit, that kind of comfortable quiet you only get when everyone else is asleep. Or at least, that's what I thought. The faint sound of laughter came from the living room. Not loud, but hushed, too hushed. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, instinct pulling me forward. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. It was reflex. Mother's intuition, maybe. Peeking in from the hallway, my breath caught in my throat. Jake was on the couch. My son. My sweet, serious, almost too responsible son. His head was tilted slightly back, his eyes half closed, mouth parted in a silent gasp. And straddling him was a woman. Not just any woman. Alyssa. My best friend. The world dropped out from under me. For a second, I thought I was dreaming. Hallucinating. But the way his hands gripped her waist, the whisper of her name from his lips, the unmistakable rhythm of their bodies, it was all real. I didn't move. 1,000 images blitzed through my mind. Sleepovers, Sunday brunches, whispered secrets, wine-fueled nights when Alyssa cried over her divorce and I held her like a sister would. All of it now tainted, rewritten by the scene in front of me. They didn't see me. Or maybe they did, and just didn't care. I backed away slowly, my heartbeat hammering in my ears like war drums. I made it up the stairs on autopilot, glass of water forgotten. Once in my room, I locked the door and sat on the edge of my bed, hands trembling. I tried to tell myself it didn't mean anything. That Jake was an adult. That Alyssa was allowed to move on. But logic did little to soothe the raw sting under my skin. It wasn't just about them. It was about me. About what this meant, to be invisible in your own life, only to discover the people closest to you were rewriting it without your permission. I stared at the ceiling for hours, sleep a distant possibility. My mind looped the image over and over like a broken reel. Every time I blinked, I saw Alyssa's fingers in Jake's hair. Every time I breathed, I heard her laugh, low, sultry, familiar. I had no idea what tomorrow would bring, or what I was supposed to say. But one thing was clear. That night changed everything. And deep down, a whisper I couldn't silence murmured. Why her, and not me? The morning after felt like walking through fog. Everything looked the same, yet none of it felt familiar. Jake was already in the kitchen when I came down. Shirtless, casual, pouring cereal like nothing happened. Like I hadn't seen him the night before, exposed in a way no mother should ever witness. He glanced up briefly, offered a clipped morning, and returned to his bowl without waiting for a reply. I nodded but said nothing. My voice was still caught somewhere between my chest and throat. Alyssa didn't text. Didn't call. I checked my phone 3 times before admitting I was expecting her name to pop up. It didn't. The silence between us felt heavy, unnatural. Alyssa and I used to message over the most trivial things. Garden gnomes at the hardware store, bad TV endings, burnt toast. Now, nothing. I replayed the memory again. Her laugh. Her hands. His face. Had I missed the signs? I thought back to 2 months ago, when Alyssa started coming over more often. She said it helped ease the loneliness of post-divorce life. I welcomed it. Encouraged it even. We'd talk, cook dinner, pour wine. Sometimes Jake would sit with us for a while, quiet as usual, but present. I never imagined there was anything between them. Alyssa was nearly my age. Jake was barely out of his teens. Was I blind, or did I simply not want to see? The weight of betrayal twisted in my stomach, but it wasn't just betrayal. It was something darker. A creeping sensation of envy. Jealousy. What did Alyssa have that I didn't? She was beautiful, yes, even after everything. Her hair was always effortless. Her laughter confident. She took up space in a way I hadn't for years. Since my divorce, I'd blended into the background, taking care of Jake, working long hours, managing responsibilities that left no room for spontaneity or seduction. A part of me resented her for reminding me what I'd let die inside myself. Jake disappeared into his room for most of the day.
We didn't speak.
We didn't look each other in the eye. There was an invisible barrier between us, thick with unspoken truths and things we both wanted to pretend hadn't happened. By evening, the silence became unbearable. I picked up my phone, thumb hovering over Alyssa's contact. I typed a message 3 times and deleted it each time. We need to talk. Why him? You broke something in me, but I sent none of them. Instead, I stared at her name and wondered if she felt even half the ache that had burrowed into my chest. I didn't know what hurt more, that she'd taken something that felt sacred, or that I wasn't even sure if I wanted it back. 3 days passed. The silence between us curdled into something sharp. Jake tiptoed through the house like a stranger. We exchanged only essentials, groceries, errands, the occasional "did you eat?" His eyes never lingered on mine for more than a second. It was like we had silently agreed to pretend that night never happened, and yet it hung in every corner of every room. But it was Alyssa I couldn't stop thinking about. I finally asked her to meet, in a public place. A small coffee shop we used to frequent together. The irony didn't escape me. She arrived 10 minutes late, looking polished and unbothered in a pale blouse and sunglasses perched too confidently on her head. She greeted me like nothing was wrong. No guilt, no apology, just casual charm. "I guess I owe you an explanation," she said, stirring her iced coffee. "You think?" My voice cracked despite my best effort. She sighed, then leaned in. "Look, it wasn't planned. Jake, he's not a kid anymore. Things just happened." "Things don't just happen, Alyssa. You're my best friend. He's my son." She looked away for a moment, then met my eyes again. Not with regret, but something bolder. "And when was the last time you let anything happen? When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel wanted?" I felt that like a slap, because it was true. I had buried every part of myself that craved attention, affection, even intimacy. I'd become invisible, not just to the world, but to myself. "You crossed a line," I said, quieter now. "I know," she said, "but maybe it was never really my line to begin with." The words didn't make sense until later that night, when Jake found me sitting alone in the backyard. The air was cool, the moon distant. He hesitated at the door, then stepped out, arms folded. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "I should have told you." I didn't reply. "She used me," he added. "But not in a bad way. It's complicated. I think she wanted to get your attention." I turned to him. "Why?" "I think she was trying to make you feel something."
Anything.
That's when it hit me. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a mirror. A twisted reflection of everything I'd refused to face. My isolation. My longing. My own buried desires. I stared at Jake, not as my son, but as someone caught in the same emotional wreckage as me. We were both wounded, used in different ways.
And Alyssa?
She was the spark that lit the fire neither of us saw coming. He stood to leave, then paused. "She said you used to be full of life." I swallowed hard. I did. A long time ago. And as he walked back inside, I stayed seated in the dark, wondering if it was too late to find that version of me again. Or if I'd already started. A week passed and Jake moved out. No fight. No screaming match. Just 2 suitcases, a folded pile of laundry, and a quiet, one-line explanation. "I need space where things make sense again." I didn't stop him. How could I? I barely understood my own choices, much less his. The boy I raised had become someone I no longer recognized, not because he had changed, but because I had refused to see him as a man. Alyssa and I never addressed what happened in full. Not directly. She came by one evening, unannounced, with a bottle of wine and a casual smile. We sat on the porch like we used to, only now the air between us buzzed with unresolved truths. Her laughter was softer, her eyes more watchful. We didn't talk about Jake. Instead, we talked about everything else, old memories, forgotten recipes, how the hydrangeas were late this year. And beneath it all, there was this current, a mutual understanding. She reached for my hand once. I didn't pull away. There was no grand seduction. No confessions or declarations. Just a feeling, undeniable and unsettling. She wasn't asking for forgiveness, and I wasn't ready to give it. But something fragile was forming in the space where our friendship had cracked. Later that night, I lay in bed alone and realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just raw, stripped of all the quiet illusions that had carried me for years. The truth was brutal. I had been lonely for so long. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be chosen. And Alyssa, in her own messy, impulsive way, had reminded me. Jake didn't answer my texts for a while. When he finally did, it was brief. "I'm okay. Just don't expect us to go back to normal." I didn't. I still don't. The house feels emptier now, but not dead. I've started small things, yoga in the mornings, walking barefoot in the garden, cooking for one without sadness. I even started journaling again, writing about that night from every angle, as if peeling the memory apart will make it less sharp. Alyssa still comes around. Less frequently, more carefully. Sometimes we sit in silence, sipping tea. Sometimes she brushes my shoulder, without thinking. And sometimes, when our hands accidentally touch, I don't move away. We're not lovers. We're not friends. We're something in between, tangled, broken, healing. I don't know what to call it, but I know it's real. And maybe that's enough. I lost my son's trust. I lost the version of Alyssa I once cherished. But in the ruins, I found a part of myself I thought was gone, flawed, yearning, alive. I never thought I'd do this, but I did. And some truths aren't meant to be confessed, only carried.